When we start to see the choices that are not available, we can begin to see the role of political power in our daily lives. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2, Waste Management of the Truth, Courage, and Solutions podcast. My name is Allison Stater, co-host and current Master of Nursing student at Viterbo University.
And my name is Marie Furseth, also a co-host and a current Master of Nursing student at Viterbo. Here with us for the first part of the episode, we have Jackie Davis, Operations Coordinator at the Crosse County Solid Waste Department. And then in the second part of the episode, we are welcoming Brandon Knudtson, who is the General Manager of Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling and part owner of Seven Rivers Recycling. So Jackie here will be providing insight into waste management and how that relates to climate change.
Jackie, thank you for agreeing to join us on this episode. We are very happy to have you.
I am very happy to be here. I am really excited about the project that you have been working on and making it an opportunity to reach out to individuals in our age cohort to share a little bit about what we do here at the department with you guys.
Definitely. I think that this is something that needs to become more well-known in the community. I didn't know a lot about it before meeting you, so this is going to be great for our listeners. So Jackie has been with the La Crosse landfill for 10 years and is involved in a wide range of projects. So can you tell us about the La Crosse landfill and what you do as the operations coordinator?
So here at the department, we focus on waste management as in a holistic approach. So we do a variety of things here at the facility. I am currently in charge of managing all day-to-day operations. So that includes things like our diversion programs, meaning things that are diverted from landfilling, the landfilling programs themselves as far as waste filling, acceptance of waste, all of our environmental management and monitoring programs, meaning what we are doing to protect the area, human health, and the environment by managing this facility, and the Household Hazardous Materials Program, which is another division of diversion, but specifically as it relates to managing hazardous chemicals that are coming from the region.
So you really do just run the show.
We keep busy out here. There's always something to be done, always something to be improved on in the waste industry. And this position, it allows myself and others to take a top-down view of how the decisions we make, how it impacts the whole regional waste management system as a whole.
I'm glad you mentioned that because something you shared with us when touring the facility was the microgrid project. Can you tell our listeners a bit about this and how it impacts our community and environment?
Absolutely. This comes up a lot as far as how lucky we are in this area that so many businesses, organizations, industries are really interested at being at the forefront of the green movement, if you will, about finding alternative solutions to energy and as it relates to climate. So one of the organizations that we have been partnering with for over 10 years is Gunderson Health Systems in Alaska. We have a cooperative project with them to send all of the landfill gas that we produce to be utilized at their facility for heating, cooling, and energy production. So as part of that, they are looking at increasing the resiliency of that system through a microgrid project by adding additional layers of green energy to the system to allow its use even when there are outages of a utility, like one of the major power utilities. Say there was an outage, how do we operate our system in the event that that goes down so we're not then diverting back to, traditional power. And part of that is looking at some solar, some other generator use, some other renewable natural gas to incorporate into the system to just make it a little bit more resilient in the event that something impacts the power grid.
So that's great because the landfill does create gas and now it's being used for something that is actually helpful.
So in the industry, the landfill industry, although landfill gas projects are becoming more common, they aren't quite the industry standard yet. A lot of landfills do something called flaring their gas, which basically means burning it off at a very high temperature to ensure no harmful components are being released to the atmosphere, but that material then isn't being reused. So this opportunity to partner with a local business that can find a reuse for that material has created this really robust partnership between La Crosse County and Gunderson that sees a material that otherwise would have been wasted in some sense become a valuable, renewable resource.
That's really amazing.
What a great collaboration.
So you mentioned diversion earlier. For our listeners who are new to the topic of waste management, could you explain what diversion is and how it impacts waste management and climate change?
Absolutely. So we follow what's called the waste management hierarchy, which indicates that landfilling for us particularly, but as the state of Wisconsin as a whole, is a last resort, meaning if a good reuse or end use for a material exists, then we want to utilize that opportunity for that material. And a really just base way of classifying that is called diversion, which just means being diverted from landfilling in some way. For us, the landfill, about 36% of all materials that are brought through the facility are diverted and recycled in some way, which for the industry, it's a really good percentage. We're really happy with that. We are always looking for additional opportunities, but right now we recycle common materials like blacktop and concrete and wood waste, but then we also have unique programs like shingle recycling and mattress recycling, which were new to the area when we implemented them, and for mattress recycling still remains new for the area. We do partner with Brandon Knudtson at Hilltopper Refuse and Seven Rivers Recycling to take mattresses and process them for recycling. So we're a main collection point, and then we work collaboratively with them on that program to ensure its success.
And we were fortunate enough to tour Seven Rivers, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was something that we were unfamiliar with, and then actually seeing how that process works was eye-opening. Yeah, it's interesting that this industry profits from waste generation, but it still supports and strongly advocates for diversion. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the landfill itself is not on the tax levy. So we're funded through the money that comes from people disposing of their waste. So when you come into the facility, you do have to pay a fee for disposal. And that fee goes to fund the facility. So meaning the more waste that we accept, the more hypothetically money that we would get. But it's part of that top-down view that I mentioned earlier, that is a fairly, you could say, short-sighted way to look at management. This isn't landfill management. This is a regional waste management system. So we're really looking at making this facility the best that it can be for as long as it can be. And we really do that for diversion. This facility was built back in the 1970s, and we have a limited footprint here. So we have a limited amount of space, and we typically call that airspace that we're allowed by the state to put material in. So once that space is used up, we are still going to be producing trash in the area, but then we would have to figure out what to do with it. Whether that looks like moving to a different landfill or shipping the waste out of state, those decisions haven't been decided yet, but those are big decisions, and those are, difficult, complex decisions that will have to be made. So there's a huge benefit to making the space that we have here last as long as possible. And even though that's a competing idea, diverting those materials, not just from a financial standpoint for preserving the landfill, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We want to make those decisions now, so that way future generations can benefit from having this resource here versus utilizing up this resource and then it not being available later.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said it was built in the 1970s.
Yep.
What's the timeline for when it would be filled up?
So right now, waste estimates, and it does depend on what's going on in the economy, construction projects, things like that. But right now, it's looking like about 2050 we'll be able to fill in this area till.
Have you seen that number go further away as you do more diversion projects?
Absolutely. Some of our big programs, particularly like aggregate recycling, like the concrete and blacktop, but also shingles, we're saving anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 tons of shingles a year, which is a huge volume of material that would have otherwise been landfilled. And the biggest impact on that is actually our partnership with the Xcel Energy French Island facility. So all of the residential garbage in the La Crosse area and some of the surrounding areas, we serve 5 counties, goes to that facility to be turned into electricity. So that's about 85,000 tons a year that goes through that facility that otherwise would have had to been landfilled. And our facility would be filling up at an exponentially faster rate if that partnership didn't exist. And we have been partnering with Xcel Energy, formerly Northern States Power, since the 80s.
Oh, wow. It's incredible to see the different partnerships in the community and how they are coming together for these goals of not filling up the landfill as quickly as it could have been, and also coming up with diversion projects like Gunderson using the landfill gas. Another key topic that's mentioned, so we're working on the La Crosse Climate Action Plan, is carbon dioxide emissions. And it's often discussed in relation to climate change. And so, as we know, food waste creates methane gas, which is a potent greenhouse gas. Can you tell us more about what La Crosse County is doing to limit methane gas emissions?
Absolutely. So, again, part of the largest component of that, or one of the largest components, is that partnership with Xcel. So, in other areas that don't have, an RDF processing plant, that household trash with that food waste might be being landfilled. Here, it's being combusted and turned to electricity. So a lot of the food waste is already being processed in a different way. But other than that, we do have our landfill gas capture program, which is capturing the landfill gas and piping that over to Gunderson. We also do utilize a variety of operational techniques to minimize any surface emissions. We work very hard to minimize the amount of open garbage that we have exposed at any time. We work very diligently to keep it covered and meet the cover requirements set by the state to ensure that once the garbage is compacted and buried, it's also being covered to make sure that the gas is not escaping through the surface. We do a variety of analytical tests and monitoring to make sure that we are meeting those requirements. We have something called surface emissions monitoring that we track the amount of emissions that are coming off the landfill, and some other tests that we perform on our landfill gas itself to see what our generation rates are, the amount of gas that we're producing, and the components of those gas.
That's incredible. You had also, when we did the tour here, you had talked about the tree project as well. Is that linked with all of this monitoring of the gas emissions and all of that?
So part of what we, one of our emphasis here, one of the things we focus on is being a good neighbor. We are in both the city of La Crosse and city of Onalaska limits, so we want to be very mindful of the activities that we're doing here and how they might impact the surrounding communities. And one of the things that we worked on was getting an exemption from the state of Wisconsin to allow the planting of trees on the side of the landfill. This does help to screen the facility from Interstate 90 and provide more of a natural look to the facility. We do keep track of the vegetation on the landfill as well to ensure that it is healthy and any gas production is not impacting that vegetation.
Okay. I think that's something to be proud of for this area. You touched on how La Crosse County was one of the first places to do that, correct? To receive that exemption from the state of Wisconsin.
That is correct.
To me, living in this area, I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be able to see that and know that it's happened. So,
and that's why we're here. We're here for the residents, for you guys. We're here as a resource. We're here to make sure that we are doing a good job for the taxpayers of La Crosse County. And we really strive to exceed those expectations the best we can. So,
speaking on, residents of this area, would you mind giving a couple of examples or ways that you feel we could reduce consumption and help contribute to those goals of the climate action plan specifically, or reducing waste?
I think you guys are taking one really fantastic first step, and that's awareness. I think that the more time that you can spend becoming aware of what that life cycle of what you use is, how it starts, where it's going, what happens to it, is a really big step in just becoming more aware of the waste life cycle, but also doing your research. That's kind of one of the barriers to mindful consumption, is researching the companies that you're getting materials from, making sure that they're taking their own steps to be mindful of production, end use, items like that. So I think those are big components of future reducing consumption.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is a wrap up on the questions that we have. And Jackie, we just want to give you a huge thank you for joining us here today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, I was very happy to be here.
Our conversation with Jackie was so eye-opening for me. There were so many things about the La Crosse landfill I was not aware of.
Yeah, after we met with Jackie, I started saving my batteries, my light bulbs, and propane cylinders so I could actually bring them to the Household Hazardous Materials Program. I didn't know that they could take household items for free and dispose of them safely. I also saw when we were there that they save wood stains, paints, and other common household materials so that other residents can go and get use out of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could totally get some wood stain and just redo my dresser. That's fine. I have an old Toshiba laptop that should probably go to the landfill so they can dispose of it safely. But I just think it's incredible to learn that the La Crosse landfill is so innovative compared to landfills across the country. And it's right here. But now we will hear from Brandon Knudtson, who is the general manager of Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling and part owner of Seven Rivers Recycling. He works with Jackie on recycling mattresses, and we will get to hear more on the styrofoam project, which Jackie also mentioned.
Next, we are welcoming Brandon Knudtson, General Manager of Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling and part owner of Seven Rivers Recycling. He is also a member of many statewide waste and recycling groups, such as Recycling Connections, the Associated Recyclers of Wisconsin, Solid Waste Associate of North America, or SWANA, and the Wisconsin DNR Waste Materials Management Group. Brandon, thank you for being here with us today. We are beyond excited to pick your brain about the trash and recycling industry.
Thanks for having me.
So as part of this season's podcast series, we are reviewing the La Crosse Climate Action Plan. And it seems that waste mitigation from the landfill is actually a fairly novel initiative here. So what programs or initiatives are you involved within La Crosse to support this goal?
Well, first of all, here at Hilltopper, so we are a family-owned and operated hauler. So when I say hauler is when we collect trash and recycling. So either be it from a contractor, from residents, from commercial businesses, we do it all. But here at Hilltopper, we do also operate our own recycling center. So a lot of the recycling that we collect from our residents, our commercial businesses and stuff comes through our recycling center here. We process it, we sort through it, and we've got end markets that buy the product. And from there, it's made into other things like T-shirts, like plastic bottles get made into polyester and but then so forth. So we collect plastics, we collect aluminum, we collect fibers, cardboard, magazines, tin cans,
Everything.
Cartons, everything.
So is that pretty unique to La Crosse or to your guys' company? Like typically a trash company doesn't do their own recycling.
So usually a lot of like the smaller rural areas and stuff around like La Crosse collect the trash. That's where the money's at, right? Is just from collection of the trash. People throw everything together. But in La Crosse, we've got pretty well developed recycling programs.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
As you know, we went and toured some of the other facilities that also operate these programs. A previous guest that we had, Jackie Davis at the Crosse County Solid Waste Department, she mentioned that community members in the La Crosse area and surrounding areas are really enthusiastic about styrofoam or foam recycling. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Yeah. So that's something that's going to be kicking off next week. So we'll officially be marketing the program and start finally accepting the material at our drop sites, which will be at Crosse County at the landfill. We'll be collecting here at our Alaska recycling facility. And hopefully we'll have some partners and stuff throughout the community as well for residents to drop off their foam. So I applied for a grant through the Foam Recycling Coalition, which is overseen by the Food Packaging Institute. And we were awarded $50,000 to begin recycling styrofoam.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, that's been a long process through, April into now. So you can see how long it takes for everything to work out. It takes months. So next week, we've got the equipment here. We've got staff coming in from New Jersey. So we'll be flying in on Sunday and meeting with us on Monday at the landfill. And then from there, we'll be up and running.
So you said it can't really be compacted. I mean, where was it going before?
So before, it was just going to general waste.
In the landfill?
So like I said, here it does get burned for energy.
Okay.
So it does go into Xcel Energy. In our area, we are unique when it comes to our disposal of our trash.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have the incineration plant over on French Island, which Xcel burns the trash and then it gets turned into energy. So a lot of that stuff doesn't get generally landfilled. It'll be burned, but at the same point, foam doesn't burn very well. So it doesn't relatively create that combustion that they relatively want at the facility.
And then for other areas in the nation that aren't using it for energy or burning it, like how long does styrofoam even take to decompose?
So it can take, if it's landfilled, it can take up to almost like 400 years to slowly break down, if it ever gets to that point.
400 years?
400 years.
Wow.
So we do have a container out there as of a few weeks ago, just playing around with some different types of collections, seeing this, like how much foam actually does come through without us advertising.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot. So that was just from the general streams and stuff that people are bringing in, on a daily basis. We actually had to stop the test run of collection because we got too much.
Oh my goodness.
Just thinking about all that material that's being saved and brought to the place where it should be brought to, it kind of brings us to our next question. That other program that we touched on previously, mattress recycling. So we were fortunate to tour that facility with you at Seven Rivers. How does that process work? Can you tell us about that?
Yep. So Seven Rivers Recycling, which is Wisconsin's only mattress recycler. Initially, they started collecting mattresses in 2014 as a for-profit business. So as of 2023, we are still collecting quite a bit of mattresses through like the Minnesota kind of side of things, because they are looking at legislation of banning mattresses from landfills.
Oh.
At landfills, the most important thing to a landfill is space. Almighty dollars can only go so far if you don't have space to put stuff, right?
Yeah.
But so down at Seven Rivers, we deconstruct mattresses, box springs.
And when you say deconstruct,
yep,
what does that consist of for the workers at Seven Rivers?
The best thing to deconstruct a mattress is your hands, people. One mattress might be a little bit thicker than the other, and you relatively need that human brain to be able to break that stuff down and use their best judgment of where to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have a solid crew down at the facility right now that they just rip apart mattresses all day.
Take a listen to what Brandon had to share with us on the tour of Seven Rivers and how they deconstruct their mattresses.
The first step is they're going to go around with just a box cutter, and to flay it open. So they're going to start from taking off the outside foam piece, and then from there they go through with the felt. They'll get into the springs, and then from there it's just all broken down and separated and segregated and to their own specific commodity, which is then it's baled with that specific commodity and shipped to the end market vendor who will make it into the foams get recycled into carpet backing. The metal gets made into things like appliances. The felts actually get upcycled. So we actually do a lot of stuff with the local archery company in town. We're doing some prototypes with making some archery targets.
Well, and from the tour, it really is interesting how different each mattress can be. So you need an individual person to be ripping it apart and seeing what parts you can use for
and like
what.
I said, not every mattress is the same. So that's where it kind of comes into play, where technology and machinery can only go so far. But we also do have technology and stuff involved when it comes to shearing metals off of wood. We've got some, big shear tables and stuff. We compact all the metals and all the fiber, the fabrics and everything together in bales. We sell them from there. But about 90% of a mattress is recyclable, and a lot of people don't know that. So which makes Seven Rivers very unique, that you can do this job and make money. and, sustain a business.
You really have a full plate.
Yeah. But at the same point, I enjoy it. And that's why I'm doing these things. And that's why I'm kind of taking the next step, because there's not a whole lot of people that want to have this plate this full.
Right. What got you into it? I mean, what got you interested in this work?
Well, I said my undergrad's in recreation. So then I went out to South Carolina to do my internship, and I worked with Cal Ripken. He's got a baseball complex in Myrtle Beach.
Oh.
And I started a recycling program at the baseball complex. And I came back and I'm just like, this seems interesting, the whole recycling and trash side of things. And there's always opportunity. And that's the thing, is with this industry, it's evolving. People want to do something to help save the world, right? Save Mother Nature. And recycling is probably one of the easiest.
How does it feel working and operating just down the road from your hometown, correct? Because you're from this area.
Yep. It's rewarding. The interviews and stuff that we've done for the foam, getting on TV, and without that, these things don't work. They don't, get traction. So you really have to do that next step to be able to succeed. That's like with any job. That's with any career, anything in life. Is like you need traction to be able to move forward. I want to get that next feeling. I want to get that next rush of what else can be done. It might be very stressful at times, but it's still something I look forward to.
And we're not becoming complacent then.
Right.
Continuing to look for solutions to problems.
Yep.
Yeah, and relating to that, what are some things that you think we can do as residents and listeners to this podcast to support these goals? What would you like to see?
In the recycling industry, contamination is one of the biggest challenges that we have to overcome. In the United States, 1 in 4 products that are put into a recycling bin are not recyclable. So 25% contamination rate. So you throw 4 pieces of something into your recycling bin, one of those is bound to not be recyclable. Not every recycling program is the same. It's complex, but what I want to see is just people just be a little bit more engaged. So kind of just taking that extra step to read your education, reach out to your local haulers, reach out to your local form of government to figure those things out.
And it will ultimately affect everybody.
Yeah, especially on a for-profit side of things. Whereas like if you think that something's recyclable, it's coming across our line, we've got to dispose of that trash at the end of the day, right? So I said the less trash that we get, the less that we spend, that we can put it in other programs and other forms of education or recycling programs.
It's a good way to think about it.
Well, that's all we have, but we just want to say thank you again for joining us today and answering all of our questions. So join us for our next episode on sustainable farming and agriculture. You'll be hearing from Maya and Parker on that. Today, we will leave you with a quote from All We Can Save, which is edited by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine K. Wilkinson. From page 58, I quote, "In a few decades, if we look back from a place of relative comfort and safety, I think we will remember millions of people who saw the unprecedented danger and didn't look away, who connected with their power and used it to lead change from the ground up." Thank you again, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.
We interviewed Brandon well before the release date of our podcast. The Styrofoam Recycling Project was launched in July of 2023 and has been up and running successfully since. La Crosse County residents can drop their styrofoam off at the Onalaska Recycling Center or at the La Crosse County Landfill residential drop-off site.
If you're interested in seeing some photos of the tours we went on for this episode, please check out our Instagram page at Truth, Courage, and Solutions.